Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. And I hope you're having a great day as we tune in for the Thursday night Thunderdome, where all the law stories that fell through the cracks come to our attention in some sort of battle royale format where they all compete for our love or derision. It's hard to know which one. We begin with a story that proves that you're saner than we thought you were. A stolen identity victim incarcerated after a Wisconsin man stole his identity 36 years ago is not actually insane because it actually happened. So they heard his story and they're like, that's nutso. But I think this is yet another testament in this world that there is nothing stranger than the truth. Fiction has nothing on the truth. Strange things do in fact happen. A stolen identity victim was imprisoned, institutionalized, and considered crazy after pleading his case that a Heartland, Wisconsin man stole his name and social security number when they worked together at a hot dog cart in Albuquerque, New Mexico 33 years ago. Okay. Matthew David Currens, 58, had been living in Heartland for at least the last 15 years, but had been using the name William Donald Woods. According to prosecutors, Karens had been using Wood's name for insurance, loans, credit, driver's license, and even paid taxes in the false name. Well, at least he's paying his taxes. I guess that's nice. Karens obtained remote employment from an IT department at the University of Iowa Hospital, where he made over $140,000 a year using Wood's identity. He's the Don Draper of our time, man. It's like, I want to use someone else's name. He pled guilty in federal court in Cedar Rapids, Iowa on Monday to 2 counts related to identity theft. Meanwhile, in 2019, the real William Woods, who had been homeless at the time, tried to report it to a bank in Los Angeles, but after presenting his real ID and social security card to the manager, he failed to correctly answer security questions from the bank, and the manager called Los Angeles Police Department, which incidentally, I've done this too. And I don't know how many of you have, and it's very frustrating. You know, when you're doing that thing where you have to give your identity for some reason, and they're like, okay, to verify your identity, we're going to ask you questions, and you have to pick the right questions or the right answers to the questions, and I fail those things sometimes too. And I, of course, don't know why, because I don't know what answers I'm getting wrong, but the machine seems to think it knows me better than I do, which is quite possible. I once heard a tale where a guy was on the phone with his bank, while simultaneously on the phone with the bank was the identity thief. I'm not sure how they both wound up on with the bank at the phone at the same time. I'm not quite sure how that exactly manifested. But on the phone were the identity thief and the actual guy. And so the bank was asking them questions trying to determine who was who. And the identity thief knew all the right answers because he had stolen the identity. But the guy who actually who actually was the guy didn't know the answers because he didn't know it all from memory. And so the bank actually wound up authenticating the wrong guy and then cleaned out his account, which is very, very sad. But yeah, I mean, that kind of thing happens where you just can't remember the authentication information. It's like you ask me questions, I'm like, I don't think any of these answers are right. The machine seems to think some of the answers are right, but you know, whatever. So they were asked some of the automated questions to prove that he was who he says he was, and he was unable to get it right. LAPD called Karens back in Wisconsin, and Karens told police he hadn't given anyone to California access to the accounts, and even faxed phony identifications documents to the LAPD. So the identity thief was contacted by the bank and said, hey, what's up with that? It's like, I don't know who that is. Let me fax you some identity documents to prove I'm who I am, which were fake because he was an identity thief. The LAPD then arrested the real Woods, and prosecutors charged him in Karen's name and held him without bail at Los Angeles County Jail. What followed was months of court proceedings wherein the real Woods would beg authorities that they had the wrong person. A California judge ruled that Woods was not mentally competent to stand trial because he kept saying he wasn't Karen's, and the judge placed the real Woods in a state-run psychiatric facility. He was also prescribed medication. This is a comedy of errors, going very, very, very wrong. In March of 2021, Woods pled no contest to 2 felony charges and released on time served. He spent 147 days in the mental hospital, in addition to 428 days in county jail, for a total of 575 days institutionalized. As a parting gift, the California court ordered the real Woods to go by the name Matthew Cairns in the future. That's not who I am. That's not my name. That's not my name. They call me Sean. They call me Carrie. They call me Babe. That's not my name. That's not my name. For the next 2 years, Woods tried to reclaim his identity, and Cairns continued to make false statements to law enforcement in Wisconsin and California. Then, in January 2023, Woods found out that Cairns was working at an Iowa hospital. Woods reported to the Iowa hospital compliance officer that the employee, William David Woods, is not who he said he was. In the report, he tells the hospital that he's the real Woods. That same day, the university police then opened their own investigation. Police were able to confirm Woods' story through DNA testing, and after an elderly Kentucky man came forward to claim the real Woods as his son. Oh, okay. Cairns was then taken into custody by Johnson County, Iowa in 2023. So DNA testing was able to verify who he was. Cairns initially insisted that Woods was crazy and needed help and should be locked up, but eventually admitted in his interview with a detective to using Woods' identity in every aspect of his life. Cairns said he used the fraudulent documents to authorities in Los Angeles to help in the arrest, prosecution, and incarceration of the real Woods. He obtained Woods' birth certificate from the state of Kentucky using information he found on Ancestry.com. Yeah, he just sent in, the request for the birth certificate. They're like, oh, okay. And they gave it to him, so he had a birth certificate with the wrong name and all kinds of identifying information, Yeah. He also filed an additional report with Heartland Police Department. Records show that Cairns applied for multiple loans and credit lines using Woods' identity over the years. He also committed other criminal acts and identified himself as Woods. Although a news release from the U.S. Attorney's Office from the Northern District of Iowa stated Cairns was administrator of the hospital, a hospital representative said he was not a senior leader in the organization, but fairly well up. Cairns worked as a system architect in the hospital's IT department from June 28, 2013 to July 20th, 2023, 10 years, when he was terminated for misconduct. In 2023, his salary was $140,000, according to the hospital. Cairns, for his part, married his wife, Nancy Zimmer, in 1993 and had a child whose last name is Woods, because that was the name he was going by. So that was his wife's name, and hence his kid's name. His family wrote letters in the court in November. Matt has been my husband and chief supporter of our family, Zimmer said, adding the couple met in Salem, Oregon, and moved frequently to pursue education and job opportunities. Matthew Cairns married Nancy Zimmer in 1994 with a fake name. Does that mean you get out of the wedding vows? Is that how that works? Because they typically ask you, do you, Mr. Woods, take this woman? And it's like, but that's not my name. So does that mean you get out of the marriage vows for free? Is that how that works? I don't know, man. Matt established our home in Wisconsin over 15 years ago, and after our son's elementary school was finished for the academic year, we joined him in a townhouse apartment he rented and has resided in since our move to Kentucky. Cairns also worked for Kohl's corporate headquarters in Menominee Falls for about 5 years, according to Zimmer, his wife. She said that when she got, does that mean that the other guy gets his wife? Because she married Woods, right? And Woods is a different guy. So does that mean that that he's now married to her? So many questions are unclear. I mean, it is his name on paper, at least. So that's a legal fun area for a while. She said that when he got the job at Iowa, he initially commuted some days before being allowed to work from home. Cairns developed a skill in computer science and a role in development of the systems of the Iowa hospital, according to his wife. I thank all those who have taken up my role as Matt's wife, the nurses, doctors, counselors, and cooks, and all those in the judicial system who have faithfully exercised their duties, the officers, clerks, attorneys, and judges, to resolve this matter so that Matt may restart his life by lawful means and may resume his life happily ever after. Well, you're going to have to start with a name change, I guess. His son, wrote the court, say, I am son of Matthew Cairns, formerly known as William Woods. In either case, known to me as Dad. Is he, though? Is he? It'd be the most hilarious thing ever if he wasn't the real father. That would just be the icing on this Mari parfait. I'm writing this letter to inform the reader as a relationship with me. He's raised me, parented me, and supported me for as long as I remember. He gave me my first computer, my interest in STEM, science fiction, and fantasy. He paid for the car I drove and my tuition, he added. For as long as I've been alive, he has worked hard to provide for my mom and me. We have lived together in Wisconsin for approximately 15 years, and I hope you find it reasonable for us to let it live with us again. Cairns, formerly known as Woods, will be sentenced by the U.S. District Judge after a pre-sentence report is prepared. He remains in the custody of the U.S. Marshals pending sentencing. He faces a mandatory minimum sentence of 2 years and a possible maximum sentence of 32 years and a $1.25 million fine. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun for Mr. Cairns. So yeah, Mr. Cairns stole the identity of Mr. Woods when they worked at a hot dog cart some 30 years earlier. Why? Unclear, but he did. And has been going by that name ever since. And they finally figured it out, and yeah. So that is that, and that brings us to the end of that crazy story. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on the Thursday Night Thunderdome. As always, I am happy that you're here. I'm feeling great. I hope you're feeling great, and I'm glad that you're here to spend some time with me. Let's see what else we got. All right, in disappointing news to all the Instagram thoughts out there. Instagram has begun to blur nudity in messages to protect teens and fight sexual extortion. I know how disappointed the hoes of Instagram are, but they will have to try something else. Instagram says it's deploying new tools to protect young people and combat sexual extortion, including a feature that will automatically blur nudity in direct messages. So I guess no more dick pics for you. The social media platform said in a blog post Thursday it's testing out features as part of a campaign to fight sexual scams and other forms of image abuse and make it tougher for criminals to contact teens. Sexual extortion, or sextortion, which is really a term I've never heard before ever, and I don't think I like it, involves persuading a person to send explicit photos and then threatening them to make the images public unless the victim pays money or engages in sexual favors. Yeah, maybe don't send messages to people you don't know would be a good idea there. Recent high-profile cases include two Nigerian brothers. Are we sure they're Nigerian brothers? Are they a prince? Who pled guilty to sexually extorting teen boys and a young man in Michigan, including one who took his own life, and a Virginia sheriff's deputy who sexually extorted and kidnapped a 15-year-old girl. Don't be a sheriff's deputy and exploit a 15-year-old girl. That'd be great. Instagram and other social media companies have faced growing criticism for not doing enough to protect young people. Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Instagram, owner, apologized to the parents of the victims of such abuse during a sentence hearing. Meta, which is based in California, also owns Facebook and WhatsApp, but the nudity blur feature won't be added to messages sent on that platform, at least for the moment. So your what ass, I said it right the first time, I think. Your what ass messages are still well protected. Instagram said scammers often use direct messages to ask for intimate images. To counter this, it will soon start testing out a nudity protection feature for direct messages that blurs any images with nudity and encourages people to think twice before sending nude images. The feature is designed not only to protect people from seeing unwanted nudity in their DMs, but also protect them from scammers who may send nude images to trick people into sending their own in return. The feature will be turned on default globally for teens younger than 18. Adult users will get a notification encouraging them to activate it. And soon, every teenager to start over their accounts with a fake birth date. For people sending direct messages with nudity, they'll get a message reminding them to be cautious when sending sensitive photos. They'll also be informed that they can unsend the photos if they change their mind, but there's a chance others may have already seen them and also taken the screenshot. Instagram says it's working on technology to help identify accounts that could potentially be engaging in a sexual extortion scam based on a range of signals that include sextortion behavior, which doesn't sound ominous in any way. To stop criminals from connecting with young people, good luck, it's also taking messages, including not showing the message button on a teen profile to potential sextortion accounts, even if they already follow each other. Well, I mean, if you already know it's a sextortion account, then, like, why aren't you banning them? I mean, you're already alerting them by not letting them see the follow button that you suspect them anyway. So it's not about keeping them on platform. So why are you keeping them on platform? I'm confused. In January, the FBI warned of a huge increase in sextortion cases targeting children, including financial sextortion, where someone threatens to release compromising images unless the victim pays, otherwise known as blackmail. The targeting victims also are often boys between the ages of 14 and 17, but the FBI said any child can become a victim. In the 6-month period from October 2022 to March 2023, the FBI saw more than a 20% increase in reporting of financially motivated sextortion cases involving minor victims compared to the same period in the previous year. So Instagram doing the bare minimum to help protect youth who once again will be creating accounts saying they're over the age of 18 any moment now. And that is the end of that story. In the library police are really out to get you. A judge has lifted an arrest warrant of a mom who was wanted for overdue library books. Those library police, man, they are diligent and they will come after you anywhere and everywhere. And if you don't take the books back, they'll take you to a special collection. Unclear whether or not you will be filed in jail using the Dewey Decimal System, but maybe that's an improvement that can be suggested by the librarians. A judge has lifted the warrant of a Texas mother who was fined almost $600 for the late library books. Kaylee Morgan, a stay-at-home mother of 5, checked out 2 books from the public library in March 2023 and never returned them. The bastard. She discovered last month that there was a warrant out for her arrest while trying to renew her driver's license. Well, that must have been fun and scary. When she called the courts to investigate it, she was told it was related to a charge for theft of governmental property. The city of Navrastola issued a statement on Thursday saying library fines intend to provide for the continuation of services while ensuring that library materials are not abused. They also said that they had sent 2 notices about overdue books to the address Morgan had used for her library card. Morgan said she never received them, and she was sent at an address that she hadn't lived at until 2019. The city also claimed they received an email response from Morgan after they notified her about the books, saying that she would return the books. When Morgan appeared in court at the end of March and pleaded no contest, she faced harsh words and a $570 fine for books that totaled about $60 in value. The judge also reportedly told her that if she gets pulled over in Grimes County, she'd be arrested. After Morgan's situation reached national news outlets, the city faced massive backlash for what many consider to be harsh penalties over the 2 books. The city said that the municipal judge lifted the arrest warrant on April 2nd and reduced the fine to 0 on April 5th. So I guess she gets away with her crime. The city of Navrastola also said that the codes and ordinances of the city are carried out in order to establish local regulation and should not be changed by discussions in the media or social media. Well, you gave all that ghost up by giving the thing up. They said that residents who want to see a change in the ordinance should communicate with city staff and elected officials. So, library thief gets away with it. Very disturbing indeed. It turns out that it turns out the creepy man was not really into you as much as your car. A man has been arrested after a woman said he used her car to sexually pleasure himself for 3 years. Yeah, okay. It's red. I guess it's, I've seen better looking cars, to my mind at least, but you know. Okay. All right. A man was arrested in North Carolina for activity related to mechanophobia or mechanophilia, a sexual attraction to machines or vehicles. The 82-year-old woman says that the man, who she does not know, has been using her car to sexually pleasure himself for 3 years. The woman also says her car has been urinated on, which may or may not be part of the sexual fetish. We are unclear. Kensington police arrested Walter McKay, 52, on Monday. Arrest warrants accused McKay of getting on the hood of the car and sexually gratifying himself on multiple occasions. The latest case happening Sunday. The woman says she tried putting cameras out to catch evidence of what was happening, but she said McCrae would move them. The woman said police eventually put out their own camera and caught what was going on. McCrae is charged with felony stalking and 5 counts of damage to property. You could go get yourself a car. You know, maybe you and a little car and a little wine. You know, use that premium gas. You know, a little window wash. You know, a little interior clean, a little interior vacuuming, baby. You know, treat it right, baby. It'll treat you right. You know, everyone knows what I'm talking about, right? Right? I mean, who amongst us has not been there? In oh no, moving on news, O.J. Simpson has died. Okay. Noted. That ends that story. All right. In unusual rescue news, a mountain goat that was stuck under a Kansas City bridge has survived a rescue. Well, we do have to help our mountain goat friends when they do get caught up in those situations under a bridge. Unclear, however, if the goat was stuck under the bridge or whether or not it was a billy goat Goff who was trying to fleece people out of money under the bridge using potentially riddles. I don't know, man. An escaped mountain goat that somehow got stuck under a Kansas City bridge has survived the rescue effort and now may be reunited with owners who suspected he was stolen from their farm 2 months ago. It is a story that's captured the hearts of Kansas Cityans, said Tori Fugate of the KC Pet Project, a nonprofit that handles animals. Forget a solar eclipse, we're on Goat Watch. Okay. After Monday's eclipse, people spotted the animal, believed to be a missing goat named Chug, hopping around on pillars that support the bridge high above the ground below. Maybe the goat was trying to take out the bridge, like the container ship that recently hit the support pillars of the bridge in Maryland. Goat hopping around on pillars during the eclipse, a coincidence or a terrorist plot? Hoping to guide his safety, a driver managed to get a rope around the goat's neck, but that only added to danger. When firefighters tried to rappel over the side of the bridge to capture the goat, he spooked and tried to jump to the next platform. But the hoof slipped and the rope caught, causing the goat to hang from its neck. We now got a hanging goat. We have now hung the goat. Hanged the goat. Which is what the goat deserves, because it was a terrorist checking out the bridges. Tunnels and bridges, baby. Tunnels and bridges. Big brain. Big brain. Firefighters managed to undo a snag in the rope, creating slack in the line. The goat then fell 15 feet to the ground, landing in a spot where crews had added padding in an attempt to soften the impact. A waiting veterinarian sedated the goat, and crews carried him into a sling to the top of the hill, where firefighters gave him oxygen. Then he perked up and was taken for x-rays, apparently breaking no bones. The goat has been clambering along bridge supports that are as much as 80 feet above the ground, a fall he wouldn't have survived. Well, She said that was just the latest part of the goat's adventure. What else has he been doing? Has he been visiting any, mosques at least recently, or anything else Homeland Security should know about? He entered the shelter as a stray on March 13th, was dubbed Jeffrey. It's Billy Goat Gruff, man, I'm telling you. And was adopted later that month, but he immediately jumped the fence at his new home. He cannot be contained. Thanks to his media fame, yesterday we had someone reach out and say that he's very similar to a goat that went missing back in February. I mean, if you can tell one goat from another by sight, I wonder how into goats you might actually be, if you catch my meaning. The family lives 2 hours away and plan to come to the shelter to confirm that this is the stolen goat. If he is, they plan to return Choke home to them, and the goat's adoptive owners say it's okay with them. He seemed to be very particular about his living situation, Fugate said. Outstanding. Outstanding. Yeah, I have questions. I have questions, man. Okay. And someone actually wrote help on a beach when stranded, and they actually got help news. Castaways spelled the word help using palm fronds on a white sand beach, and someone actually saw it and got them help. So I guess spelling out the word help in really big letters on the beach is actually a viable plan. Who knew? The U.S. Navy and Coast Guard operation on Tuesday rescued 3 mariners stranded on a Pacific islet for more than a week after the trio had spelled out help using palm fronds laid on the white sandy beach. The mission also expectedly turned into a family reunion. The 3 men had been planning to fish the waters around the atoll, part of Micronesia, on March the 31st when their 20-foot open skiff was caught by swells and its outboard motor was damaged. They scrambled ashore the uninhabited island, but their radio ran out of battery power before they could call for help. This 3-hour tour thing is very, very real. So the castaways gathered palm fronds from the 31-acre island, arranged them to spell out help on the beach, and waited, according to the Coast Guard. The names of the stranded men have not been released by the Coast Guard, and CNN's attempt to contact the relatives have not gotten replies. For a week, the men lived off coconut meat, but they did have some fresh water from a small well on the island, which sometimes was fished by villagers in the region. So that's nice that they had some fresh water, so that was okay. The search for the man began April 6th when one of the relatives called rescue officials in the Pacific U.S. territory of Guam, saying they had not returned to the island, more than 100 miles away, where the 3 had started out their voyage on Easter Sunday. It's difficult to overstate just how remote the island is. The island is part of the Federated States of Micronesia, which I will point out is a country that we have a, what do we call it? What is it actually called? It's called a Compact of Free Association. Ooh, yes. So Micronesia is one of 3 countries in which the United States has a Compact of Free Association, which means, among other things, that any member of those countries can go to any other member of the country and work there. So if you're looking for some remote work, good news. You can work in the country of Micronesia without a visa, being an American. And you can go visit their capital city of Yap. Nice. Lieutenant Chelsea Garcia, the search and rescue mission coordinator on the day the trio was located, said the sign was crucial to finding them in a search area that covered more than 103,000 square miles. The act of ingenuity was pivotal in guiding rescue efforts directly to the location. The Navy jet dropped survival packs to the 3 men and relayed their location to a rescue center. A day later, a Coast Guard, if they saw the jet and leaving them, I wonder how depressed they were. A day later, a Coast Guard HC-130 flying from Air Station Barbara's Point in Hawaii dropped a radio to the men, who were able to talk to the crew and tell them they were in good shape and eager to get back to the main island. When the Coast Guard cutter reached them, the story took another twist. One of the first rescuers on the beach was Petty Officer Second Class Eugene Halatius, The stranded men were surprised to see that Hellacious was Micronesian and spoke the local language. Well, why would they be surprised? I mean, they're going to Micronesia. Maybe we can find it. Maybe we have Micronesian on board. I mean, why would I be surprised? I could see that on their faces. Whoa, who's this guy pulling up that can speak our language? Hellacious told CNN. It's a guy from Micronesia. When he gave his name to the first of the stranded men to reach the rescue boat, the castaway was stunned. They were related. It's a crazy word. I'm actually related to them, Hellacious said. He couldn't believe it. I'm with the Coast Guard trying to rescue them. The man was the third cousin, the others fourth cousins. How nice. Amazingly, this was not the first rescue of castaways from the island. In 2020, 3 other men traveling between 2 Micronesian atolls found themselves washed up there after the boat ran out. Those people spelled out SOS on the beach, a message that was spotted by the crew of a U.S. Air Force tanker operating out of an Air Force base on Guam, which then directed the Coast Guard, Micronesia, and Australian naval units to get the man from the island. How did it happen to the same island twice in 4 years? It could be a coincidence. Well, yeah. The people of Micronesia frequently travel to the island and do so with great skill and experience, but occasionally accidents happen. How nice that we all got rescued. So that will be some interesting stories. All right. Ian, I really wanted that surf and turf news. A Florida man has been accused of stealing both lobster tails and rotisserie chicken from a Walmart. I didn't know Walmarts had lobster tails. I mean, it's not that I've ever gone looking explicitly, but Walmarts have lobster tails? I didn't know that. Okay. A Florida man found himself in hot water, nice pun, after stealing a number of delicacies from his ambitious shopping list from a Walmart in Nassau County. Kareem Griffin, 46 of Jacksonville, was arrested after stealing 9 succulent lobster tails, 4 premium ribeye steaks, 2 packages of snow legs, and a rotisserie chicken at the Walmart in Yulee. Griffin left the store on the evening of April the 3rd with a duffel bag, which he also stole, full of the meats. When he returned to the same Walmart just 3 days later, presumably for yet another meat heist, he was instead met with deputies who then arrested him. Officials say that while Griffin's motives for the shopping spree are unclear, the allure of fresh lobster tails and premium meats proved tempting to resist, leading to a confrontation with the law that led him both in hot water, both literally and figuratively. How did it leave him in hot water literally? How did it lead him in hot water literally, police? I don't think you know what literally means. Okay. Pressing on. All right. In sports betting turns wrong news, a ex-interpreter who worked with a Major League Baseball player has been charged with stealing $16 million from the baseball player relating to sports betting. Federal authorities have arrested the longtime interpreter for the Los Angeles Dodgers on Thursday, charging him with federal bank fraud, alleging he stole more than $16 million from the Japanese sensation that works for the baseball team as a baseball player. The interpreter, a constant presence beside his counterpart in the baseball stadiums across the country since 2018, abused the two-way trust and exploited the language barrier to plunder a bank account that only he could access, according to prosecutors. U.S. Attorney Martin Estrada said that the individual was so intertwined in the baseball star's life and career, they became the star's de facto manager. The role enabled him to withdraw money from an account, at times lying and impersonating his client, to baseball employees to finance his insatiable appetite for illegal sports betting. So that's $16 million that is gone. Thursday's announcement at a packed news stadium in downtown LA ended weeks of speculation about the self-admitted gambling problem, the wide-ranging federal investigation, and the translator's role in the scandal. Estrada said there was no evidence that the baseball player was aware of his interpreter's actions, adding that the baseball star has cooperated with investigators. I want to emphasize at this point that the baseball star is considered a victim in this case. The criminal complaint detailing the scheme through text messages, financial records, and recordings of phone calls even show that the translator knew the game was over. In a message to his illegal bookmaker on March the 20th, he wrote, "Technically, I did steal from him. It's all over for me." Yeah. The translator faces up to 30 years in federal prison if convicted of a single count of bank fraud. His attorney declined to comment. The translator's first appearance would likely be this week. The scale of the theft shocked the sports community, but also further absolved the baseball player from wrongdoing in the biggest gambling disgrace since Pete Rose was banned for life, which is still a questionable decision to my mind. Major League Baseball opened its own investigation at the controversy surfaced last month, and the Dodgers immediately fired the translator. Given the information disclosed and other information we've already collected, we'll wait until further resolution of the proceedings is determined whether further investigation is warranted. MLB rules prohibit players and team employees from wagering, even legally, on baseball. MLB also bans other sports with illegal or offshore bookmakers. The player left the Los Angeles Angels in December to sign a $700 million contract with the Dodgers. The translator and the player had been daily companions since they joined the Angels in 2018. The player's baseball salaries prior to the Dodgers totaled around $40 million, although he's expected to earn $10 million in endorsements each year. Federal investigators say the translator made about 19,000 wagers. That is a lot of wagers, man. Between December 2020 and 24, nearly 25 bets per day. The wagers range from $10 to $160,000 per bet, averaging around $12,800. Estrada said the investigators did not find any evidence that the baseball player had wagered on baseball. While the winning bets totaled over $142 million, which deposited in his bank account, his losing bets were around $183 million, a net loss of $41 million. Can you imagine that? He had gambling wins of $142 million and gambling losses of $183 million. The guy might have a gambling problem. Holy shit. At one point, the bookmaker couldn't reach him and threatened to approach the baseball player, identified as victim A. "Hey, Ippy, it's 2 o'clock on Friday. I don't know why you're not returning my calls." I can think of some reasons. "I'm here in Newport Beach and I see the baseball player walking his dog. I'm just going to go up and talk to him and ask how I can get in touch with you since you're not responding. Please call me back immediately." The alleged fraud also spanned the lucrative memorabilia market. Investigators seized roughly 1,000 collectible baseball cards, including for such players as Yogi Berra, and discovered approximately $325,000 in transactions to online retailers from January to March. Authorities believe the translator purchased the cards from sites with intent to resell. Missouri told ESPN that Antonai paid his gambling debts at the interpreter's request, saying bets were on international soccer, the NBA, NFL, and college football. So apparently the player was willing to cover his translator's debts. That's a lot of generosity. But ESPN said they changed the story the next day, saying that the baseball player had no knowledge of the gambling debts and not transferred money to bookmakers. The baseball player says he first became aware of the gambling problem during a team meeting after the Dodgers' March 20th win over San Diego's Padres in Seoul. During the MLB's first game in South Korea. 5 days later, the baseball player told Dodger Stadium press conference that he never bet on sports or knowingly paid any gambling activities accumulated by his interpreter. He placed responsibility entirely on his interpreter and refuted the interpreter's inconsistent accounts of whether the basketball player had paid off his gambling debts. I'm deeply saddened and shocked that someone I trusted had done this. Ippy's been stealing money from my account and has been telling lies. I never bet on sports or willfully sent money to a bookmaker. According to the criminal complaint, the case stemmed from a broader probe of illegal sports booking organizations operating in Southern California and laundering the proceeds through casinos in Las Vegas. To date, these investigations have led to criminal charges and/or convictions of 12 defendants and one money service business, as well as non-prosecution agreements with 2 Las Vegas casinos. The investigation remains ongoing at multiple targets, not all of whom are related to each other. So, yeah. So that was a lot of fraud. That was a lot of fraud. That's sad. That's just sad. All right, let's see what else we got today. Let's see what else we got. Okay. All right, I think we will end the stream with Naked Florida Man. Because Naked Florida Man is always a boon to us all. In Oscar the Grouch news, drunk naked Florida man was found sitting inside a garbage can and has been arrested. I love trash, anything dirty or slimy or stinky, anything rotten or dirty or grumpy. Yes, I love trash. A Florida man was arrested after authorities reportedly found him drunk and naked inside a garbage can. Drunk and naked is no way to go through life, son. Wiley James Weeks Okay. 35 was taken into custody as he tried to argue with cops about whether he's allowed to engage in the behaviors, according to arrest reports obtained. St. Petersburg officers alleged that Weeks was intoxicated, you don't say, unsteady on his feet, and reeked of alcohol when they discovered him downtown Saturday evening. During the encounter, Weeks claimed he couldn't be arrested, this should be good, because he was allowed to be drunk and disorderly and sit naked in a trash can on the public sidewalk. Literally every single word of that is wrong. The 35-year-old also said he didn't have to tell police his name or demographics. After officers pulled a nude man from the corner trash can, they arrested Weeks for disorderly conduct and resisting officers without violence. According to reports, he pled guilty to both misdemeanor charges the next day and was fined $520. Yeah, I thought Wiley Coyote too. I definitely had that thought go through my head. This was not the only time Weeks was caught in a drunken escapade. Really? This wasn't his first time. Tell me more. The Smoking Gun magazine reports Weeks and a male friend were spotted drunk and naked on a Tampa street after they left a bar. They allegedly told cops they thought it would be funny to take off their clothes. And we have a copy of the arrest report. Let me see if I can open this in a new tab, make it a little bigger. There we go. All right. So we have Wiley James Weeks, born 1989. He's a white male, 60 inches tall, 250, brown hair, blue eyes, and light skin. He is transient. And the undersigned swears that he or she has reasonable grounds to believe the above defendant on the 6th day of April 2024 at approximately 11:42 p.m. at First Avenue North and University Way North in St. Petersburg, Florida, did unlawfully obstruct or oppose Officer Dravis, a duly legally constituted law enforcement officer of the St. Petersburg Police Department, while in lawful execution of legal duty, which consisted of identifying the defendant due to him being under arrest for disorderly intoxication without offering or doing violence to the person of the officer. Defendant was already under arrest for disorderly intoxication, and he refused to identify himself. Defendant believed that he's allowed to be drunk and disorderly and sit naked in a trash can on the public sidewalk, and therefore the arrest was unlawful and did not need to provide his name or demographics. Okay. I mean, sure. Why not? That's all fine. If you're naked, drunk, and in a trash can, naked, you've gone wrong in your life, son. You've gone wrong in your life, son. It's time to reevaluate your choices on every possible level. You're a man of the land. Does the land include garbage cans? I'm not sure about that one. Yeah. So yeah, well, that was a fun episode of Thursday Night Thunderdome. I had fun, and you had fun too. I know you did. Don't pretend like you didn't. So thank you for joining me for this wonderful episode of Thursday Night Thunderdome. I had a great time. I know you had a great time. We will stream a little bit tomorrow. There's no court tomorrow, but I do have some episodes to record for Attorneys React, so I'll record that tomorrow. And after I get back from the gym, presumably, and we'll go from there, and we'll see how we do. But until then, I've had a great time, and thanks again to Tony, our mod, who continues to make these great thumbnails. Tony is our best mod. Tony finds a lot of these stories, and he makes the thumbnails, and he's there and supports me, and he's just great. Oh, we could do the new ATF rule. That's true. I don't know if we could do it quickly, though. But we could try. I really should do a separate video for it, though, if I'm going to do it. I'll tell you what. We'll try to do a live sometime tomorrow. And we'll try to do some of the highlights on the ATF rule. What is the curtilage of a garbage can house? There isn't one. You don't have curtilage on a public sidewalk. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah. All right. I've been Uncivil Law. Until later, my friends. I hope all's well. Cheers, my friends, and goodbye.